So Congress wants to create a national gun control board with the help of the Biden administration. So let's talk about this. But real quick before we jump into this video, if you think the federal government needs to stop infringing on our Second Amendment rights, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. I also want to give a shout out to one of the main supporters of the channel, which is Blackout Coffee. Blackout Coffee has some of the best two-way supporting coffee out on the market. So if you want to have a cup of freedom every single morning, I highly recommend you check out Blackout Coffee. And if you use the code ARMSCHOLAR, you will get 10% off of your order. Also want to let you know that this content is powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. So head on over to joinfpc.org to help support the Second Amendment cause. Thank you again, Firearms Policy Coalition, for supporting this channel. So like I said in the intro, a new bill has been introduced into Congress, which seeks to create a panel of anti-gunners who will then come up with legislation and research to subsequently attack our Second Amendment rights. This bill is H.R. 5273, also known as the Gun Safety Board and Research Act. This bill is sponsored by Mark DeSalegner out of the anti-gun state of California. So really no surprise, an anti-gun board bill is coming out of California. This bill gives the power to the Secretary of Health and Human Services to establish a gun safety board. Now, if you're not aware of who the current Secretary of Health and Human Services is, that is Xavier Becerra. Becerra is the former Attorney General of California who is responsible for many of the gun control laws that us in California currently suffer under. And he is responsible for a lot of the litigations that have popped up in California to challenge those laws. He is a rabid anti-gunner and is also part of the Biden administration's current efforts to label so-called gun violence and issues relating to firearms as a public health crisis. So that is the person who will be responsible for this board, who will head this board, and who will assign those 22 members of the board. Because this bill directs Becerra to create a board of 22 members who will conduct original research about firearms violence, reduction, and who will educate members of the public about causes of firearms violence and ways to reduce it. The interesting thing about this bill is that these anti-gunners have the audacity to think they can educate people on the causes of firearms violence. If they were really going to educate people about why there is issues in major cities like Chicago and LA, they would point to their own liberal policies and anti-gun laws, which proliferate those very crime-ridden cities and actually are resulting in and causing a lot of those issues. However, the goal of this bill is not to cause or create real education or research. Instead, this bill will lead to fake research, fake education that will simply blame the firearms, the guns themselves, and those lawful gun owners. This bill goes on to say that these 22 board members will be tasked with creating policy recommendations that they will publish based on their research. These policy recommendations will relate to how to reduce domestic violence, so-called mass shootings, so-called hate crimes, police violence, and other issues relating to violence in various communities. These policy recommendations will likely take the form of proposed legislation and regulations to reduce those issues. So for example, they will likely create things like recommendations and policies that state local agencies and states should adopt bans on magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. And they could simply attach magazines as a cause for things like mass shootings or other sorts of violence against police officers, like we saw the state of California do, like we saw Xavier Becerra himself do in the state of California. Now you may be asking yourself at this point, who are these 22 individuals who will be members of the board? Well, the members run the gambit from nonprofit representatives all the way to a representative of the ATF. So the composition of the board will include one member with the expertise in public health, one member with expertise in mental health care, one member with expertise in firearms violence research, one member with expertise in trauma surgery, one member with expertise in law enforcement, one member with background in firearms manufacturing, firearms sales, professional firearms use, or recreational firearms use. That's probably the only one that maybe is pro-gun, but really they'll probably just get some FUD individual who's willing to say whatever they want. There's going to be two members representing victims of firearms violence, one member representing a nonprofit organization that advocates for racial justice, one member representing a nonprofit organization that advocates or engages in firearms violence intervention or prevention. That's probably going to be someone like from Giffords or Everytown, something like that. And then it says one member from each of the following: the National Institute of Health, the Center for Disease Control, because we really need the CDC talking about firearms, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission, the FBI, the Department of Health and Human Services, the ATF itself is going to have a member represented on the board, an officer of the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, the Office of Victims of Crime within the Department of Justice itself, the Office of Violence Against Women, and then the National Institute of Justice. So those are the 22 members that will comprise this board. And as you can see, none of those are pro-gun. None of them are really going to advocate for our fundamental rights, our Second Amendment rights. These are all going to be individuals who are going to want to strip our rights. So those are the 22 members of the board. And essentially, they're going to be 22 people who just hate our Second Amendment rights, who want to strip us of our Second Amendment rights. None of these individuals really will likely represent our rights. There's maybe that one expert, so-called expert in firearms and manufacturing, but likely, like I said, they'll probably just get someone who's willing to say whatever they want to support their research and policies. Now, even worse, what this bill is going to do is it's going to allocate $5 million each year for the first 2 years to this board. And then after that, they're going to allocate $25 million each year to this board. So this anti-gun board will be funded by your taxpayer dollars. And then on top of that, all these 22 members will also be receiving a salary. So they're going to use our taxpayer money to fund a board that's whole goal is to strip us of our Second Amendment rights. Now, as of right now, this bill doesn't have a ton of support, but it doesn't mean we simply just ignore it, especially when there is discussion of creating an anti-gun board headed by Javier Becerra, who's been very vocal, not just in the state of California when he was the AG, but also when he took over Health and Human Services, talking about that firearms are a public health crisis. This is someone whose whole goal and career has been based on taking away firearms and taking away your access to firearms. So I highly recommend you guys reach out to your local representatives in the House and as well as in the Senate and let them know that you do not need 22 anti-gun people telling us about gun safety, telling us what's safe for all of us, telling us how we should actually use our firearms, what's safe for us, when we all know in reality, they know less about gun safety than Alec Baldwin does. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment down below and I'll try to answer the best of my ability. Also, if you like this video and like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm or fuel Al Gore's rhythm. It adds fuel to his jet and it signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of two-way news. So thank you so much to everybody who's liked, commented, subscribed, who's hit the notification bell. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. All those things really do help these videos and it helps reach to more people. So if you guys don't have a comment in mind, just comment down below that you're commenting to fuel the algorithm. And if you're a longtime lurker or a new individual on this channel, please consider subscribing. It really does help these videos. And also, if you're a new subscriber, comment down below that you're a new subscriber and I will comment back to you. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this is with Built Bar Arms Scholars and stationally maintained Bar Arms Scholars.